the fantastic show today. Chef Via Melissa is going to be doing, what are we doing today? We're going to be doing muffins?
We're doing fall favorites. Yes, we're doing
fall
orange
favorites.
pumpkin muffins.
And
Yes.
let me introduce Chef Via Melissa, who has been seen on Dr. Oz, featured in Forbes magazine, New York Times. You just wrote a book during quarantine.
I did. Yes, it's called Let's Dine In: Healthy Recipes and Tips to Minimize Your Shopping Trips.
And how can I follow that? The floor is yours, or the kitchen is yours.
Thank you so much, Oscar. So super happy and excited to be here. Thank you, Oscar and Phil, for having me today. So yes, as Oscar said, I'm Chef Via Melissa, and you can find me on social media under Chef Via Melissa, as well as in all of the publications that you just mentioned to see past video clips. I own a health-focused personal chef and catering company. I'm based out of New York, and I service the metro area. My credentials as a chef is I'm actually a nutritional chef, as well as a certified culinary nutrition expert and a certified nutrition and wellness counselor. So everything that I make has a health-focused spin on it. I cook from a global cuisine, so I make dishes ranging from Asian to Italian, Mediterranean, Mexican, putting a healthy spin on all of it. So I take out all of the bad ingredients and I focus on keeping the same type of flavor from the original dish, but just making it in its healthiest facet. And being today the first day of fall, I figured why not kick off the segment with making one of my fall favorite recipes. So the recipe that I will be doing today is my orange pumpkin oat muffins. And before we kind of get into more chatting, I figured I'd kind of walk you through how I assemble the recipe, give you some nutrition tips, and then I'll talk a little bit more. So while we're talking, these bad boys will be cooking. So right here, I have 2 measured cups of oats. And the reason why I use oats in this recipe as opposed to using flour is because it helps to keep the muffins more dense, and they also have a lot more nutrition than regular flour does. They're gluten-free, they're high in fiber, so when you're digesting them, they actually slow down your blood sugar and help regulate your blood sugar, as opposed to, let's say, regular white flour or flour in general will make you metabolize them way too quickly, leaving you hungry shortly thereafter. So there's my 2 cups of oats. Then I have a 1/4 cup of brown sugar. Most traditional baking recipes call for 2 cups, 3 cups of sugar, which is like, oh my God, heart attack or diabetes attack in one bite. So it'll still be super flavorful with just a 1/4 cup of sugar. That's all you need. And a lot of times in my baking, if I don't use a dried sugar, I also love to use honey and or maple syrup, because those have nutritional benefits, as they're both antiviral, antibacterial, and maple syrup is actually loaded with B vitamins. So the next dry ingredient that I'm doing is 1 tablespoon of pumpkin pie spice. Obviously, making pumpkin muffins, you want some pumpkin pie spice in there. So those are my 3 dry ingredients. So now all I'm going to do is blend the 3 dry ingredients together as such. And again, most recipes say make your dry ingredients 1 bowl, your wet ingredients in another bowl. I like to do everything in 1 bowl because, cooking is about efficiency when you're preparing, but also efficiency when you're cleaning up. So the next ingredients, and by the way, these muffins and almost everything that I do are gluten-free and dairy-free. So this is dairy-free. It's vanilla coconut milk. I'll be doing 1 measured cup. There you go. 1 cup of that. Then we're using a whole can of pumpkin puree, pure pumpkin puree, no additional ingredients or fillers inside of that. Just gonna plop this can right out. You can, of course, bake a fresh pumpkin. And if you do bake a fresh pumpkin, it's actually optimal to use a sweet pumpkin. And if you're not sure what a sweet pumpkin is, it's actually a white and green pumpkin, which I just went to the farm and I have one right here. So this is a sweet pumpkin, which would be your recommended or preferred type of pumpkin to use for baking. But for today's purposes and efficiency and time, we're gonna go with the canned version. And the last 2 ingredients, so we're going to use 2 organic brown eggs. 1, 2. All right. And the very last ingredient, you can't have orange pumpkin oat muffins, but of course, without orange flavoring. So we're going to do 1 measured tablespoon of orange flavoring. And if there's any vegans out there watching this, you can sub out the eggs to make a chia egg. And for those that have not made a chia egg before, to make equivalent to 1 egg, you take a tablespoon rather of chia seeds and a 1/4 cup of water, and you mix that in like a little bowl or a cup. There you go, Oscar, chia seeds. You mix that together in a bowl or a cup, and then you let it sit for 10 minutes. And while the chia and the water are sitting there for 10 minutes, it'll then gelatinize and turn into an egg consistency. So you can easily swap it out and make it like such. And so now I'm just going to be incorporating and blending my wet ingredients with my dry ingredients. And I already have my oven on, preheating to 350 degrees. So that'll be nice and hot by the time I get this in there. A little bit more like such. It's all nice and incorporated. I wish this was in 4D and that you can smell the aroma. It smells like Thanksgiving. All right. Now I'm just going to use a 1/4 cup and fill my muffin cups. No pun intended, Phil. All right.
Next time, send us a sheet with everything we need, and we will have the ingredients, and it's Cook Along with Melissa Day.
Yes, definitely. I absolutely love that. And funny you should say that. So since COVID and quarantine, I've actually had to take my business online, and I do have a few online cooking classes coming up that are on Eventbrite. And for anybody that's interested, they can reach out to me through my website or social media, and I'd be happy to send them the information, because what I do for those classes is after you sign up, I then send you all the tools, all the ingredients that are needed. Obviously, I cook at a much slower pace so everybody can follow along, and then it's kind of like I show you what to do, and then I look at you through my Zoom, and I kind of guide everybody that's in the class on what to do at home as well. And it's a lot of fun, because then I love seeing that everybody on the other side of the screen can certainly, be eating and enjoying the same foods. All right, so let's scrape these few in here. As such. I love this little pastry tool scraper. All right, last 2 muffins. And then we're gonna get them right in the oven. These up, just gonna top them all off a little more. Don't wanna let that extra batter go to waste. But as you can see, super easy, 5 or so minute prep. Get all the ingredients together, throw them in the muffin tins, and then throw it right in the oven. And then in 20 to 25 minutes, we will have perfect orange pumpkin oat muffins. And because the pumpkin is so moist, I didn't actually need to use any oils in the recipe, because they just come out so nice and moist because of the wetness of the pumpkin. All right. And voila. So that is my demo for my orange pumpkin oat muffins. Any questions?
That is so easy and quick.
Yes, it is.
I love muffins. That's my comment. I love muffins. I have one of my key questions was, how did you get into becoming a chef? What inspired you for that?
Yeah. Well, it's a very long-winded answer, but I will certainly try to condense it down. So I'm the youngest of 4 children. I grew up in a very large Italian household where any night of the week, there was anywhere from 8 to 12 people at the dinner table. And then, of course, when we had holidays, there was like 20 to 30 people. So I was always in the kitchen, just kind of like sous chefing and assisting my mom from a very young age. And then as I got older, especially when I was in college, I started to become interested in eating healthy. So when I was in my early 20s, I started to kind of revamp a lot of my family's traditional recipes into a healthier facet, whether that were baking something versus frying, Or if I were making something baked, maybe instead of using oil, I would use applesauce, in like a baked item. So just kind of like started to make different modifications. Fast forward to my early 30s, fortunately, but unfortunately, I started to develop food allergies and sensitivities, specifically gluten and dairy, hence why I'm an expert at gluten and dairy cooking. And I also, at that point, I had my own apartment, and then I was always having friends over to host dinner parties. Always, they were ranting and raving about my food, and they're like, "Oh my God, I love your stuff. You need to open up a restaurant." I was like, "Oh my God, thank you, but I don't want to work in a restaurant." So it was literally just a hobby of mine. And then I'd also had been certified in nutrition in my late 20s. And when I was doing meal plans for clients and, telling them what to eat, they themselves didn't really know their way around the kitchen. So then I kind of took my meal planning services up a notch. And even though I wasn't even designated as a chef at that point, I went to their homes, I assessed their pantries to get them, in the healthiest facets. And then I actually did cooking lessons with them, just at that point, kind of being a home-based chef. Then fast forward, with my food allergies, and then I was working a job that took a lot of havoc on my health. I had chronic stress, chronic fatigue, adrenal fatigue. And then that was in my mid to upper 30s. I was sort of starting to have like a downward spiral with my health. Then in 2016, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. She's doing okay now. Love my mom, thankfully. But it was a pivot point in my life. And I realized I had this passion, this knowledge for health and helping people, and especially wanting to help my mother. And I used to travel a lot with that previous employer. So I kind of, when she was diagnosed, it hit me really, really hard. And I literally quit my job on a whim with very little business plan, very little ideas. However, the one idea that I did have, I quit my job to be a caretaker for my mother in summer of 2016. But then I enrolled in a culinary nutrition program by the fall of 2016. So while I was taking care of her, I was also taking care of myself, I guess, career-wise, and kind of like pivoting and transitioning. And then I did my first event. So the program started in September of 16. And while I was in the program, I'm like, all right, well, I need to try to make some money. So I did my first event, a cooking demo in a gorgeous kitchen showroom that had 3 people attend. And then I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? I made like a career suicide, so to say. But the few people that came loved, the workshop that they had witnessed. It was actually fall favorites. So I demonstrated a bunch of fall dishes, talked about the nutritional points of those dishes. Everybody had a full meal that was served to them. And then they went home and told their friends and family. But anyway, not willing to give up, still having that drive and passion to succeed. January of 2017, I did an event in another showroom, and that was called Post-Holiday Detox. And when I did that showroom event, I actually sold out with 22 people. And I was like, oh my God, that for me was my career confirmation, so to say, to know that my pivot and my career change in direction was definitely a good one to take. Long story short, literally shortly thereafter, I listed myself on a couple of different websites. I started responding to requests, and people that were coming to those types of events were asking me, do you do dinner parties? Do you do catering? And I was like, I don't, but I could. And then fast forward, here we are 4 years later. I've now executed over 200 events. I've been in the media over 100 times. I've now written my first cookbook, and literally my story just went from like 0 to 60, unbeknownst to me. But then of course, COVID happened. So in March, my business came to a complete standstill. Really scary times, to be quite frank. I mean, me as well as obviously many other business owners in the food industry, no matter what capacity you're in. So then I took my business online, started offering online cooking classes. I'm even launching a wellness program with a fitness trainer, business partner of mine, which is actually launching next month. We started a free Facebook group during quarantine called Your Daily Dose of Wellness and Nutrition, where we literally give daily doses between fitness tips, recipe tips, nutrition tips. So now we're actually going to be doing a subscriber-based membership launching mid-October, and the website is called YourDailyDoseTribe.com. So you can be a part of our tribe, get our daily doses. We'll be doing live videos. Everybody will then have access to our on-demand content. So it's been a really interesting ride, to say the least. So I know that was a very long answer to give you about how I got started, but all important details I love sharing.
And it sounds like you're just getting started now, after COVID. Now it's like, okay, we're going to pivot. We're going to just, take off from there. So you didn't lose any speed.
No. And it's funny you say that. So even though I lost all those events, you're right. I've been busy this whole time just trying to pivot again and figure out what's next. How do we survive? And then funny enough, in the last week, I had 2 client events last week, live events, and now I have 4 events coming up this week. So now I'm like, juggling a lot, but I absolutely love it. I mean, I truly am so passionate about everything that I do food related and helping people and cooking for people that I'm excited to ride both waves right now.
Wow.
Fantastic.
So I'm curious now. I have a few friends that are gluten-free. They have to be on a gluten-free diet. What are some of the things that you recommend for someone on that kind of diet as far as food?
Yeah. So just because you're gluten-free, a lot of people don't realize there are still so many things that you can still eat. So even though, for instance, I just use oats to make my muffins, you can use oats. Like I even use gluten-free flours, of course. So I'll use either gluten-free flour blends, or there's millet flour, there's chia flour. There's even grain-free flours, such as like almonds and cassava and coconut flour. Like almost all of let's say my carb-based things. I'll usually do a mix of, let's say, oat flour with another gluten-free flour, because you still have, like I said earlier, like the density from the oats. But then there's also other grains that people can eat. So when it comes to pastas, for instance, there's so many amazing legume-based pastas. There's black bean pasta, chickpea pasta, red lentil pasta, quinoa pasta. If anything, people that are gluten-free, whether you have to be or not, there's actually more choices and variety for people that necessarily aren't gluten-free, but of course could still eat gluten-free because they can have both worlds. And then a misconception, a lot of people don't realize that rice is gluten-free. Because so many people are like, oh my God, I can't have my rice anymore. You can. Rice is naturally gluten-free. So no need to worry and fret about that. And most oats are gluten-free. For those that are extra sensitive, you do want to make sure that the oats were made in a gluten-free certified facility, because oats are naturally gluten-free, but sometimes there's cross-contamination. So the severity of one sensitivity could be worse for one person over another. So that's just something else to be conscious of.
So basically, what does it mean to be allergic to gluten, though? I'm curious as to finding that out.
So gluten is a protein that is natural in wheat. And what it means to be allergic, the severity or reaction that people's bodies have can vary. For me personally, I can't digest or metabolize it. I get extremely nauseous. My stomach gets extremely bloated, which are typical telltale signs. For some people, it might make them run to the bathroom. For others, they might instantly look 6 months pregnant. But it really affects one's digestion is what it comes down to, or not being able to digest it.
Oh, I love that we're talking about this, because it seems to be a very hot subject, and I love how you transitioning your business. I think everyone has had to pivot a little bit as to what they do with their business. So I would love to find out how when you decided to do that, what were some of the things that led you in the direction of kind of like adjusting online with the ideas that you have?
Yeah. So I started, I guess the first thing that I did was, doing the cookbook, because always being so busy, running events, planning events, catering events. It's almost funny. I always kind of joke, the notion of the shoemaker having holes in the shoes, so to say. I was always the chef cooking for other people. I never had time to cook for myself. And a lot of times my dinners, after I'm done cooking for clients or at their events, would end up being like eggs and salad or something, very basic. I wasn't enjoying my food, but everybody else was. So it gave me a time to kind of get creative and, put all my recipes together. So then the first online pivot was launching my digital cookbook. And then I started noticing, there's a lot of chefs that started doing online cooking classes, but their styles, are more rich, gourmet, not so much healthy. And I know that there's a growing need for people that want to learn healthier food. Even though I'm not 100% plant-based, I do offer and have many plant-based recipes. So that's why one of my more popular cooking classes is actually a vegan and plant-based class. Similarly, like I know Oscar said, the other gentleman said that he was going keto. So, I've also done keto cooking classes, paleo. So I try to stay like one step ahead, so to say, and offer people timely and trendy information as far as like recipes when I'm pivoting online. And similarly, how I partnered with Nicole, she obviously knows, there's a lot of trainers, herself included, that are just doing training programs. I know many people just do nutrition programs, or how I was just doing the cooking classes. And I was like, you know what? Why don't we join forces? We can stick out from the crowd and offer everything as a one-stop shop. And it's a complimentary program, because it's not like person's talking to their trainer and then getting nutrition tips from their trainer, which aren't always accurate. So at least it's kind of like a foolproof program that, and then she and I can both monitor and balance the clients together to make that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome. So are these the dishes that we have that you have behind me here? Tell us a little bit about those.
Yeah. So the dish that's to your left is actually one I just did this past weekend, and that's one that I usually do at my catered affairs. So that is a tomato with fresh basil and mozzarella balls in a balsamic glaze reduction. And, they're great because they're light, they're low calorie, they're portion control, because they're actually, each thing is on a skewer stick. So you would just grab the skewer stick and eat it, pop it. Yeah. And then the dish that's on your right is one of my poke bowls. So I call it a triple turmeric poke bowl. So it has, on the base of it, it's turmeric rice. Then it's curried chicken. I believe I have carrots in there, some peas, other like diced up mixed vegetables, nuts and seeds. And then I make a vegan lemon cashew sauce that's actually on top of it as well, which also has some turmeric in it. So that particular dish is great for anti-inflammatory. It's also gluten-free and dairy-free. And for somebody that were plant-based that wanted to make that, they would obviously omit the chicken or swap that out for some tofu.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds so delicious. Oh my goodness. I'm sure that there's somebody out there that's looking at that going, I wonder how she made that. And so that's the purpose of the cooking class, right? You can definitely go to viamelissa.com and find out more about Melissa and what she does in her cooking class. Because it's just so interesting how, people have had to change their diet, because they're trying to build their immune system, strengthen their immune system. What are some of the things that you would may suggest for people to incorporate in their diet to kind of do that?
Definitely. So the one thing I would say to, first I'll say not necessarily what to incorporate, but what to not include.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I would say, steer away. It's almost like the obvious things, but, fried food, high sugary foods, because those types of foods will cause your body to be in more of an acidic state. So an acidic body is a body that's more prone to disease, as opposed to, you want to eat foods that would be more alkalizing, because an alkalized body is a healthier body. It's an immune boosted body. So you would want to include your fresh fruits, your fresh vegetables, healthy fats. So by healthy fats, I mean eat avocado, eat coconut oil, salmon, nuts, seeds like walnuts, almonds, cashews, chia seeds, flax seeds. these are the types of things that would help keep your immunity boosted. And also eat a rainbow of color. Reason being, every specific color when it comes to, fruits and vegetables has a specific purpose. For instance, pumpkin, like I'm making today. Pumpkin is orange. Orange is always a clue that the food will have vitamin C as well as beta carotene. So vitamin C is great for your immunity. Beta carotene is great for your glowing skin, and it's also great for your eyes. Or if you have greens, like dark leafy greens, such as, kale and spinach, those are typically high in iron, and iron is good for having, good blood immunity, as well as they have calcium in them, and calcium is great for your bone health. So, there's these little tips and clues in nature. For instance, actually, walnuts are great for your brain health. If you think about the shape of a whole walnut, when you crack open, let's say one from a shell, it actually looks like the shape of your brain. So, it's amazing that in nature, there's these little clues that are always there that if you find them, they're right before your eyes.
Wow. That's so true, right? We get the hints, we get these different hints from nature that kind of help us along the way. And, we just have to really kind of learn about, following that. So is that, how do people get in touch with you as far as for the classes? Like, is all that information is on your website?
I actually need to add it on my website. I do promote it a lot on social media though. So if anybody goes to Chef via Melissa, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram, you can certainly find them there. The cooking classes themselves are on Eventbrite, or you can go to my website because I also do email blasts. So if you go to my website, viamelissa.com, there's a pop-up that you can sign up for my mailing list. And then once you get on my mailing list, I certainly blast that information out.
Get on the mailing list. Everybody, listen, you need to get on that mailing list. I'm definitely sure that my wife and I may sign up for, some of your classes because I love to cook. I love food, and I think it shows. I think it really shows how much I love food. Okay. But yeah, a great, I love, you like going to a good restaurant. It's good. The taste and texture, all of that kind of like takes a play into enjoying food. So what are some of the places you like to go to? Like, what's some of your favorite foods to make?
So I love flavor. And my notion is when I'm dining out, if I can cook it at home, I won't order it. So I love to try things that, I've never had before, I've never made. And I love different cuisines. So like my favorite cuisines are, I love Indian food, I love Thai food. I love flavor. I also love going to vegan restaurants because vegan restaurants are so creative with some of the things that they have, from a flavor profile and just innovative, that they're just, and I also know, because I can't eat gluten and dairy 9 out of 10 times, obviously everything is dairy free being a vegan spot, but then most often than not, most vegan places have a pretty good selection of gluten-free options as well. But yeah, so I would say, I'm all about flavor, and things that I can't make at home are my notions when I dine out.
Is it spicy? Are you into spicy flavor or more?
Spicy flavor, like not heat. Like I like flavorful spice, like a balance of like blended of spices. For instance, at a Thai restaurant, I love, a green chicken curry, or getting a papaya salad, drunken noodles, which are kind of like basil noodles with like veggies in them and tofu. So yeah, it's more the flavorful spice. Like Indian, I love a dal. As a matter of fact, I've learned to I've mastered making a red lentil dal, which that's one of the recipes in my cookbook. And what else do I love at Indian places? I love everything. I am a big foodie as well. It might not show, but I do eat.
So where can they find your book? On Amazon? Where can they find your book?
So the book is actually on my Via's Kitchen website. I need to actually get it listed on Amazon, which I should have it up there by next week. But if until then, if they go to Via's Kitchen, VIAS kitchen.com, That's
Mhm.
you can find my digital cookbook right there on the website. And you can also find it on cityharvest.org. So I partnered with City Harvest when I launched my cookbook because $2 of every sale of my book does get donated to City Harvest to help for their charitable causes as well.
Tell us about your charity real quick.
Yeah, so it's not my charity per se, but it's the City Harvest they help families in need. So before COVID, what their shtick and they were most widely known for is, they go around to any of the farmers markets in the metro area or a lot of restaurants in the city that have leftover food. And then they take, that unused food that they can't sell to customers, and then they'll, supply it to homeless shelters or families in need that obviously don't have the means to have access to fresh, healthy food. So, and then they've also gotten creative in other ways to raise money. So that's why I approached them when I was doing my cookbook as a partnership to help their cause. So
that is a great cause. That's a great cause. I would love to contribute to that as well. So that I think that are the muffins done yet? I was kind of curious.
Yeah, they say 2 minutes. Let's go take a peek.
All right.
Let me do this. Ooh.
I can smell them from here.
I was just gonna say, I think you can smell them because I can smell them, and I think they are done.
Nice.
There you go. Yep. So I can press on them. They're not liquidy anymore. They're the perfect amount of being dried out. And I'll keep them in the tin because they'll continue to dry out a little bit more, but you don't want to overcook them. So they cooked up in 23 minutes. So I said between 20 and 25.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite use for a muffin tin is to make stuffing muffins.
Ooh,
where you take the
I love
stuffing
that.
you usually, you make a little. I got that from Rachel Ray,
Okay.
and you basically have individual stuffing muffins where it's crispy on the outside and soft on the inside, and everyone gets their own. So nobody fights for that edge that's really nice and crispy.
I'm gonna have to borrow that from you, Oscar. I'll have to give you a prop.
Hey, look, I swiped it from Rachel Ray.
It's okay. I'll still call it the Oscar.
I know you'll just make it healthier though. Get me the recipe after it's been Melissa-ized and made it.
Yes, I definitely do a healthier version of stuffing. I love stuffing. And thank God there are now a couple of brands that do gluten-free, so I don't have to dry out my bread and make my own seasoning and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I could do that, and I have done that, but the convenience of, nice stuffing bag, gluten-free crims, throw in the chicken stock, I'll do dairy-free butter, chopped up walnuts, vegetables, celery, etc., and then throw it in.
I see the next show coming up on stuffing muffins via Melissa stuffing muffin, healthy stuffing muffins.
I like that.
You just want her to make only muffins. That's that's really what you'd like her to do, don't you?
I'm gonna be the muffin.
Muffins are perfect. They're like they just fit in your hand. It's portable food.
And it's good because it's portion control. It's funny you say that though. I had an idea a while ago to do a book, which I still should come out with. It's called Eat Your Balls and Muffins Too.
Yeah.
But because there's so many things you can make in ball and muffin form, to your point, what we're talking about.
Oh, there it is. That's that timer.
That was.
Well, I was born in Argentina, so for us, empanadas, which are basically turnovers, they're just like they will fit in your pocket, make your pocket all greasy, but still you can just stick one in your pocket and and there's food always available.
Correct. Yes. That is very true.
Well, I want to thank everyone for watching. We really enjoyed having Chef Via Melissa on today for our health and wellness for the fall. I'm sure some of you are going to want to rewatch this and see how she made those nice smelling, they look like they smell good. And it's been Oh yeah, look at that.
I
Wow.
eat it, but it's too hot, so I'm gonna let it cool off.
Yeah, they look wonderful. They look great.
Thank you.
And so I want everyone go to viamelissa.com, register for her cooking classes and all the wonderful things that her and her company is doing. We are really happy to have you on. Thank you so much, Melissa. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Phil. I had such a fun time hanging out, cooking with you guys, talking with you guys. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Just leave a couple out on the porch in a bag, and I'll drop by in about 10 minutes.
Sounds good.
Sorry, we don't deliver to Jersey, but that's a different story.
True.
All right, everyone. So we will definitely see you in a few minutes. We're going to have Frank Capola is going to come back on, and he's going to really talk to us a little bit more about our mental health and just how we can maintain that in this time where most people are kind of going through a rough patch, but we're going to try to help you as much as we can in that area. Thank you again all for watching.